And we are live. We're just going to wait for a couple people to hop on here and see where we can take this fun. Hey everyone, it's Amanda. Thank you for joining us today. I'm always appreciative when you can stop by and join us and listen to what we have to say and spread the love and the unity all over the place here. We have the absolute pleasure, I always love when I get to speak with this beautiful human, the absolute pleasure of sitting down with one of my favorite worldly influencers, a light worker, a world traveler, a true speaker, a natural health advocate, and a warrior for the people and the planet, Mr. David Avocado Wolfe. Welcome,
Yay,
David.
thanks for having me, and excited to be here with our group. And I've got a lot to share and some great news. I mean, this is the best news ever. It really is.
I'm so excited.
We have to really see it in that perspective, because there is this has been the biggest wake up call of all time. It's working. People are waking up, and we're going to, I think, inspire a lot of hope in people today.
Amazing. So how have you been? Like, how's it been going for you? How have you guys been holding up?
Oh, it's been guerrilla meme raw fare all day long. So this is all out assault. This is a digital battlefield, and we're on the battlefield daily. I think I'm working at least 7 social media accounts, at least, maybe more, mayy 9.
You're a busy man.
Stories is different than Instagram stories, which is different than Instagram, which is different than Facebook. And I do all of the above, plus MeWe, plus Parler, plus, of course, my favorite is Telegram Messenger by far. That's my home. That's where all the best stuff goes, to Telegram. And what else? And I'm also doing, what's another one that I'm doing? Twitter. Twitter's a total abomination. It's the rectum of social media. But if people are like, is there really evidence of voter fraud? I'm like, dude, look at my Twitter feed. It's crazy. I mean, this is 20, 30, 40, 50 items of voter fraud daily that I'm punching out on Twitter, because Twitter's a really good search engine for that kind of stuff. So I just put it in my feed, and just anybody who wants it, there it all is, all collated for you. David Wolfe on Twitter, if you want to find me there.
Awesome. And we'll cover all of those too. We'll make sure everybody can find you after this as well, because it's important. I think that a lot of people do find you and catch up with you and really open their eyes, because I know you can do it. If anybody can do it, it's you. How's your cleanse going?
It's going great. This is day 3.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing the first week is we have 1 solid meal a day, and then we're gradually bringing the calories down through this week. And then next week will be all liquids. And then again, through that week, we'll bring the calories down. And then the 3rd week is a water fast. And I'm going to go 8 days on this water fast. And it'd be my 3rd cleanse this year, third water fast, long water fast this year. I'm excited about it. This is such an important thing, is when we're in all this outer distraction, you go totally inward. And that's why we've been doing such intense cleansing this year, because it really sorts you out and you really see what's important, what's valuable. And it helps you to turn off the distractions.
100%. And this isn't just you doing that. This is a group that you've brought in to do this.
This is a group where there's 444 people approximately in the group right now. And that's awesome. Great. So I'm leading the group. So for many years, I've led these groups, and then I also do it too. That's what's great. You have to do it, right? You can't just talk about it. You have to actually do it. And after 27 years of doing cleansing, it is really amazing what happens. It's really amazing what you find out. And we can get into that too, because really, let me just throw this hypothesis out there. It's a very difficult hypothesis to refute, which is the world's run by parasites. And I mean that in every metaphor of what I just said. Every metaphor: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual parasites. And the physical parasites pin them down into the physical realm. So when we look at the world's supposed leaders, people who, like basically James Bond villains at this point, they're loaded with parasites. And that's what's driving this whole thing. It's a very difficult hypothesis to refute. Try to refute it. Check it out. Do your own parasite cleansing. And when you see the worms come out, you start going, oh my God, what? And this is what happens. This is why we drive these cleanses, because people have tremendous wake-up calls. It's phenomenal, because you see it. You see the liver flukes come out. You see the tapeworms come out, and you go, my God, what is going on in the world? It's one of the reasons why I stayed a vegetarian for 31 years, is because I'm not going to have any kind of like fish, or there's so many tapeworms in that I mean, sushi's crazy. I just got to put it out there. This is crazy sauce stuff.
Yeah, no, I get it. And you know what? A lot of people, and it's funny because I'm clearly coming from Canada, but a lot of people don't even know you're in Canada. So what brought you back here?
Well, I've lived in Canada for 16 years.
Good.
And I just when I what I'm originally from New York, New Jersey. You know, my dad's from New York City, and I grew up in New York and New Jersey on the Jersey Shore. And we go to New York City every weekend. For many times, my parents would travel the world, and they left us with my grandma, and so we went to New York City schools. PS 152, I think, was the name of my school. That public school, PS. I mean, that's how many of them there are in New York City. And then when I got, then we do our vacations up in Lake Placid, which is upstate New York. And when I got to Ontario in 1999 for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is like upstate New York, but better. And then when I came back I first came up to Ontario in 1989. And when I came back up in 1999, I started doing events in Toronto. I realized that this is the place. And that's what brought me to Ontario.
Awesome. Awesome. And we had you at the Freedom Protest on October 17th, and you spoke, and it was wonderful. You had the whole crowd engaged. It was so much fun to watch and so amazing to be a part of, obviously. So I guess that's kind of where I wanted to take it, was that I wanted to sit down with you and talk about and maybe help people find ways and strategies to stay positive and keep their vibrations high, at optimal levels, and to bring in the new age, not the NWO crap that, the parasites are trying to bring in, but the actual new age, because we're not going back to normal. There will never be normal, but we can direct whether it's, a positive or the parasitic way.
Fantastic. Well, we first of all, we have to come to grips with the situation. For many years with traveling the world, I traveled the world for 26 straight years, and then we come back to Toronto, and then go out again and come back to Toronto, go out again, go out back out to Toronto. And actually it's a blessing. It was a major blessing, but it's also a little bit of a curse, because I was in those planes and all those trains and all those automobiles and from this place and doing events. And internally, I'm constantly surrendering to what's happening in that moment. Right. So internally, you can't develop resistance to what's happening, or you're going to be in trouble. And so that was a big discipline for me over all the years, because the traveling can wear on you. It was super fun, and I'm so glad I got it in, but it can wear you out. And same with what's going on right now. If you start resisting it and saying, oh, I can't believe I can't travel over here, or I can't believe they're going to try to inject me with Bill Gates's chemicals and parasites and nanotechnology if I go over there. And if you get into that stuff, you're going to get disturbed. And so what you have to do is you have to surrender to what's happening right now. And so we had the wonder of having the part of our life that led up to 2020. We don't have that luxury of that life anymore. Now we have to face actually these demons that have been working their way up and up and up into the power structure all our lives, that at least I've been warning people about since I was a kid. I mean, I started into this stuff in the 70s because my neighbor she knew all about corruption. She knew all about who FDR was. She hated FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She could not stand him because she lived through his era. And so she told me all about the corruption, who he really was, the secret societies. I was just a little kid. I'm like 6 years old going over to her house, at the neighbor's house, and she would be like, let me tell you about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So I've been watching all these years and warning people all these years, and have known about the bankster system. It's not a banking system, it's a bankster system, since I was a teenager, all these years. So I've watched, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And eventually they went for their power grab to run the world. And then RFK Jr. and Del Bigtree were correct. They said pretty soon Big Pharma is going to be the arm that they're going to use to try to take over the world. And they were right. They were correct about that. And so we just have to look at the situation that we're in. We have to accept it, and we have to understand that we're in a World War II cycle, right? We're about 1932 right now. Yeah. And it's good. This is going to end up in a really intense conflict, because we will end up flipping the United States around, and we will end up flipping Canada around. But Europe is in a lot of trouble, and I mean a lot of trouble. And I really feel for them over there. And it's going to be a struggle even in the U.S., and it'll be a struggle in Canada. But I think two provinces in particular will stand out and rebel, and one of them will be Alberta, and the other will be Ontario. There will be definitely some struggles in British Columbia, and there'll be the biggest guerrilla fighting will be in Quebec for sure, 100%.
Yes, but those people there are the most passionate, and they come out in the best numbers.
And that's why they want to stop them.
Support them 100%. So
that's why that Legault government wants to stop it, that communist government. We know what this is now. This is techno-communism. We know that communism never went away. We know what the Chinese Communist Party is all about. And we know who's sold out to the Chinese Communist Party. This is all a tremendous, I mean, I look at this, every day, I'm stoked. I'm charged with energy because everything I've been working to tell people, inform people, to educate people about is now right there in front of everybody. It's the best. This 2020 is actually, to me, really in a lot of ways was the best year of my life.
Oh yeah. You can take the tinfoil hat off now and you can place it in the museum where it belongs, right?
No, we take the tinfoil hat, we place it right over there on the CNN reporters or on the CBC people, or because they now are spouting the most absurd conspiracy theories of all time. And so it's awesome. We just go, oh, here, take my tinfoil hat. Now you're wearing it. And then we go after, it's awesome to go after the news reporters. They're not even news reporters. It's just propaganda machine. It's so awesome to go after the propaganda machine and just be like, you're just spouting conspiracy theories. And just, it's so good on Twitter how it's just completely reversed. Twitter, again, is the rectum of social media. It's the worst. Jack Dorsey he's a maniac. All these people are maniacs. Zuckerberg's, Jack Dorsey, the Google guys, they're maniacs, control freaks. But we know that now. Yeah. How about that?
Everybody knows it now.
Yeah.
And even those that are disagreeing with what we have to say, in your gut, you do know. There's a reason they hide this stuff, and it's not because it's misinformation. It's because when they repeat their lie over and over and over, it becomes your truth. Your gut is telling you what's true and what's not. And if you're not listening to it, you're in for a rude awakening coming up. This is, in a sense, World War III. It's a psychological war. You are in a war and you don't even know you're in a war. Like
I like what Nietzsche said. Nietzsche said this. He said, historically, only the truth has been censored. And that's all you got to do to realize you're in a war. All you have to do is look at the intensity of the censorship. It's even beyond the Third Reich, actually. It's beyond the Soviet propaganda. I've been saying that for a while, that CNN is worse than Pravda from the old Soviet Union. It's worse. Yeah. It's absolutely demonic. It's 100% lies. Everything that's on is 100% propaganda. So it's just constant. So when I see people who are all lit up and they're like, we've got to kill Trump, he's a fascist dictator. It's like, do you know what a fascist dictator really looks like? Right. Do you know what a fascist dictator really is? Do you know what a dictator really is? Because you're going to find out real soon what that really looks like. But we're not going to find out in the US. We are finding out in Canada for sure what it looks like, because we can see that the supposed, we call him the crime minister. What's really going on there is he's just a front for forces that are behind him, right? He's a low IQ. He's been, forced into that position all his life. There's Freemasonic rituals that they took his brother out as part of the ritual of his rite of ascension and all the other stuff that we could get into. But he's just a front man. It's not really him. It's who's behind him. Yeah. And that's where the dictatorship is coming from.
Mm-hmm. And it's starting to close in. And I don't know, I posted something the other day because I watched him speak, and I never watch him speak. This just caught my attention. But when he was talking to the camera, it almost sounded like he was threatening Canadians. Do you know what I mean? Like he was in a pure on panic mode, threatening aggression. And it's funny to me because that tells me he's backed in the corner.
Right. You can see, so you've seen this too. This has been going on in the alternative circles of information where these people have ankle bracelets and people are like, oh, they're going to Gitmo. No, they're not. That's not Gitmo, or that's not the US government or the white hats that have that ankle bracelet on them. That's their masters. That's what you see with like Biden. That's my theory with the whole foot brace. Mm-hmm. Because he wants to walk. He wants to cut a deal and get out because they're forcing him into a very difficult position. So what do? They're going to put a boot on him like they did to McCain, like they did to John McCain and Sidney McCain. And this is what they do with their ankle bracelets. So my opinion about that, theoretical, of course, is that it's actually their higher ups are saying, you're not doing none of that. You're not talking to McConnell. You're not talking to anybody. You're going to do what we say. And we're going to put a boot on you, which is your tracking and ID and everything else. God knows what that boot really is. That's my take on that, by the way. And that's been going on every time I see these people and they're like, oh, Ellen's got an ankle bracelet on. It's like, that's because her higher ups are saying, you are going to do what we say, and we're going to make sure of it. It's not white hats. That's my take on that.
Well, it's a good take. I mean, we take everything in one, right? Whatever happens, happens, but we know we win, so it doesn't matter.
This is what will come out of this will be more freedom than we've ever known before. What will come out of this, it will be the total defeat of world communism. What will come out of this is the total defeat of the World Hoax Organization. What will come out of this is the total defeat of the United Nations, which my neighbor all those years ago, that wonderful matriarch, she told me what the United Nations was all about in the 70s. She told me all about it. And she told me exactly where it was headed and what was going to happen. And she was 100% correct. Every time I talk to my mom, I'm like, do you remember what Mrs. Smutko said? That was her name. They were Hungarian family, Mrs. Smutko. And my mom goes, oh, yeah, she was alive today. Oh, my God, David. You know, that's my mom. She always, and it's interesting, too, you know, how my whole family gets it 100%. They completely get it. Like my mom, you know, about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, she's like, was the moon landing fake, David? And I said, of course, Mom. Come on. It's all fake. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even have to bring it up. I never had to talk about it. We never had to argue about it. She asked me. And when I said, I was like, come on, of course. She's like, yeah, that's what I thought.
All in their own time, eh?
All in their own time. And this is why you don't force anything on your family. Just let them bring it out. They'll come up with it.
Yep. They'll eventually turn to black sheep too. And then that will become the norm. That's my take on it. I don't know.
I agree. It's all flipping around. It's going to be a struggle. We're in a fight. If we lose our life in this fight, well, at least we fought for good. I mean, this is a spiritual war. I think everybody who's listening to this knows that this is a spiritual war. Yeah. We know that people like the Prime Minister, that he's in a very, very dark place because he's being forced to do what he's doing. And the forces that are behind him at the very highest level they're demonic. They're satanic, actually. And we all know that now. And so this has finally bubbled to the surface. Thank God. Thank God. And interestingly, too, you know, when I became a raw foodist all those years ago and first got into all the cleansing and the fasting and everything, I became an Essene. And so in my heart, I became a Christian. You know, my heart. It's not that I'm into churchianity. I'm not into churchianity. Yeah. But I'm into the ascended masters, and Jesus is an ascended master. And so one thing that Rudolf Steiner, one of my teachers, really taught me is that you hold that Christ light in your heart. They cannot touch you. In fact, if they harass you at the airport, they come after you with their Ball Gates injections, BA''AL, Ball Gates injections. You just go, you know, you hold up the cross and you go, Jesus is my savior, and you go Jesus freak on them, and watch what happens. It's really interesting too. Wow. So that's kind of like, I used to do that. I love the Hare Krishnas in the airports. Man, they would see me and they'd come after me and I would turn it right on them. And it was so much fun. I always loved those encounters in the airports, traveling all over the world with the Hare Krishnas. That's what you got to just go into, the religious fervor and the spiritual fervor, because that is what this atheistic satanic cabal can't stand. They run from it.
Yep. No, I get it.
It's so fun.
Yeah. But people also need to remember, though, there are no saviors coming. Like you're
your own savior.
The savior. You need to get off your butt and do the work with the rest of the people that are trying to bring a higher energy to this earth. You know, and
freedom's worth living for. It's worth dying for. We've never really had freedom. We've got to remember that World War II was won mostly by communists. We forget that. So the post-World War II world eventually led to this disaster of right now, because eventually it led to a full communist takeover of the whole world. And so now we get to overturn that. Now, when we come out of that, all the bureaucracy, the licenses, the tracking, the surveillance state, all the technocracy, all of that's going with the communism. It's all going away. So we get this wonderful opportunity to reimagine governments. Like, you can't be tracked. That needs to be encoded and codified into the governmental structure of every nation on earth. We are not going to be subject to the whims of the technocracy. That's encoded into the constitutions of every government on earth. We get to rewrite it. We are the Thomas Jeffersons, the George Washingtons, the James Madisons, you know, fill in the blank. I'm an American originally, so I get to use those things. But in other places of the world, we have those great freedom fighters. And so we get to be those in this life now. This is phenomenal, actually, what's happening. And I'm really excited about it. I have to say, I've been fighting for it my whole life. Now I know 100% what my life is about. And if I die in the process, I'm so happy I believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in it. I know it's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, we're going to believe in some, Hong Kong Phooey. No. We know in our heart what truth is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So what do you think that people can do to remain hopeful and positive daily? Not only for themselves, but to help other people, because I know a lot of people reach out and people are overwhelmed. They're tired. They're fighting. That's a good fight. And how can people help retain that positivity within their heart and keep going?
Well, one thing is you've got to control your suggestive environment, and that means you have to curate your feed. Like if your feed is constantly the doom and gloom report or the lies of media or socialist media, you need to curate your feed, and you need to control your suggestive environment. If there's a constant doom and gloomer that's just in your ear every day, you need to get away from that person, because it's very difficult to control your own emotions when that kind of chaos is going on next to you. Another very important tip is get into nature at least 1 hour every single day, so that you are in nature at least an hour, maybe longer. If you could get 2 hours, wonderful. Let's get 2 hours in nature, walking, get your phone off, get that thing away from you, get your technology away from you. This is a technocratic communist revolution that's going on, and it depends on phones and computers. And as soon as you turn that stuff off, you're out of it. You're not a part of it anymore. So turn it all off and get away from it. And we also need to start retaining and regaining our mastery, for example, of not using our phone. So like driving, like when I'm driving, I just drove a long way, thousands of kilometers, and I didn't use my phone. I'm going back to the old way. Let's use our brains. We have something that's way beyond the technocracy and way beyond any artificial intelligence. It's called the human being. It's called the human brain. And the human being and the human brain is vastly more powerful than any artificial intelligence on Earth. And that's an important thing to understand. Artificial intelligences or algorithm machines are subnatural. They're part of nature. Algorithms run parts of nature, but they are not nature. They could never duplicate or improve on nature. It's a subnatural phenomenon that the technocracy, the demonic forces are trying to enthrone. And all we do is we just push it back down and we go, no, human at the center, human's best ever. We also have got to completely dump the entire programming that humans are the problem, that it's all our fault, that we polluted the world, they polluted the world. The same demonic forces that are trying to dump the techno-communism on you is the same forces that have done all the evil on Earth, not you. They're trying to say it's your fault. And so that's where they're going to take you on a carbon tax. They're going to try to get another tax on you. Taxation is theft. We're getting rid of taxation. We're eliminating it. Because if it's a fight for your life, which it is for all of us, we're getting rid of the banksterism and the usury. We're getting rid of all of the other things that came along with it, the surveillance, the control, the taxation system. We're wiping it all out because it's your life on the line. What are you going to fight for? I'm not fighting for taxation, and I'm not fighting for banksterism.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't see it as fighting for themselves, right? Like personally for me, I might not even be awake if it wasn't for my children. So what I do for them, and to make sure I'm leaving the best proper future they have. And that's in my hands, Oh, there we go. We're getting censored.
Okay, you popped out for a second. Am I still with you?
Yeah, you are. I can see you. Yeah. So, I mean, everything is for the kids at this point,
It is absolutely. It's our duty. It's again, you just have to stop fighting what is. You have to accept what is. You have to accept what has been put upon us. This is the destiny of our souls. We were destined for this moment. I feel that very strongly every day. I'm stoked, actually, because I know now. I know what my whole life's process has been and why it brought me to this moment. And I know that at the soul and spiritual level. So every day and every night and all night long, I'm on the digital battlefield, and every single moment I'm stoked to be there. Well, that's where we all got to get to, because this is a wonderful moment for freedom. This is the greatest thing ever. Everybody's becoming aware of the whole problem. We never were this aware. This is epic.
This is fantastic. Oh, I know. Now, I said I didn't want to get into any of the negative stuff, but I saw something you posted today, and I was just floored. So I wanted to show everybody this. I printed it off so we could see it. I don't know if
Oh
you guys
yeah.
can see that. That was phenomenal. So the what do we got here? The best and worst supplied. So Canada has pre-ordered almost 9 doses of COVID-19 vaccines per person in this country. Are you kidding me? Look at the comparison between Canada and the States. The States has significantly way more people than Canada does. What's up with that?
Well, what's up with that is that the Prime Minister and Ball and Linda Gates had a little meeting, and he just turned over 700 to 800 million Canadian dollars over to them, and that's what bought all those quack-scenes. Those are not. That has nothing to do with immunization. It has nothing to do with vaccination. They're injections. It has nothing to do with any of the. Whenever it says vaccines, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not. That's just some injection of some crap. What are you? Huh? It's not going to like vaccinate you against something that has a 99.99% survival rate. What an absurdity. So what that is bad decisions. What that is this dude over here took a bunch of your money and he gave it to those dudes over there. That's what he did. And who are those dudes? Well, how about arch James Bond villains like Klaus Schwab, Klaus Blofeld Schwab? Is this Thunderball? This is like James Bond stuff here. I mean, this guy, we're going to destroy Christmas, and all the German accent. The whole thing is it's incredible. This is an arch villain. You look at Ball Gates, total arch villain. It's incredible, actually. This is like, see, what's interesting is all those years of watching movies. Now we're in it. Now we're in it for real. Like you watch James Bond movies. Now you're the secret agent, and there's the villain. You see it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
All those years of watching reality TV shows, now the reality TV show is way crazier than anything was on TV. We're in it now.
Yep.
And by the way, that if you pay attention to that narrative, that we're inside the movie, which is the greatest story ever told, we're inside the TV show, which is the greatest TV show of all time. You can actually predict the future. You can actually see, like, for example, in America, where's it going next? Where's it going next in America? Right? With all the voter fraud, which, by the way, and again, check out my Twitter feed. It's the craziest thing of all time. I mean, literally 1,000 pieces of data that I've churned out of documents, videos, affidavits, reports. It goes on and on and on. That this is going to, and where does this end up? Well, let's just think about this. We think about TV shows and we go, okay, what are the most popular TV shows out there? They're the judge shows like Judge Judy, Judge Wapner. Remember the People's Court? There's that great judge show with the guy in Rhode Island, who's like a real nice judge. I don't know the name of that show, but my mom watches it. So whenever I'm over with my mom, she's always watching one of those shows. And then you look at Judge Judy and how much she's paid. She's the highest paid person on TV because her show's so high rated. So where does this go next? Let's just put a little thinker on. We go, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. It's going to turn into a judge show. Of course. Then the ratings will go to the next highest level ever. Wow. Right? You just got to think these things through because our life is a movie. Our life is a TV show for real. Yep.
Yep. And they say that too. Like when I say they, but part of the 1% and their satanic, whatever it is, they have to, by religion, tell you what they're going to do. Hence how Hollywood was created. So you think you're watching all this fiction. Meanwhile, or you know what I'm trying to say. It blows my mind how sick some of this is, and yet how some of this is playing out in exactly that reality. Like it's gross.
It is. I mean, we call it Hollyweird. Hollyweird's dead, right. By the way. Thank God. Hollyweird died a very awesome death. Thank God it's over with. And I would really recommend getting rid of television, getting rid of movies. Do not watch. I don't know how anybody has time to watch a movie. I don't watch movies. I have friends who are very high level actors and actresses, some of the most well paid in the world. They're like, hey, have you seen my film? And I'm like, no, I don't watch movies ever.
No,
you got to get out of because it's all demonic programming. All of it. You can't, it's a nonstop barrage of nightmares.
Yep.
So I turned off TV and movies 30 years ago. It's over with. It's gone. I really recommend it. And then you have more time for reading. You have more time to be on the digital battlefield. You have more time for learning, and you're not missing anything. None of that means it's all Hollywood's dead. It's over. Look what they did to the entertainment industry. They turned it into Satan's little playhouse.
Yeah.
So what we do is we go, okay, this is teaching us something, the lesser magic, how they telescope stuff, and they tell you in advance what they're going to do. So that's telling us something that underneath the veneer of science, which really has nothing to do with science, it's scientism. It's another fanatical, it's another fanatical religion, scientism, right? Right, the one size fits all injection. That makes sense. There is not one herb on earth that's one size fits all. There's not one food on earth that's one size fits all. But somehow their injections is one size fits all. It's the whole thing's hooey. But anyway, what it's telling us, what it's teaching us is something amazing, which is magic rules the world. That's what it's telling us. So it's their black magic against no opposition before until now. Now we go, whoa, it's magic. So then we have to activate, and this has been a big theme in my work for 20 years, the understanding that we live in a magical reality, not a scientific or mathematical reality, but a magical reality. And once you step into that place, you go, oh, I'm actually happy all the time, because that brings a sense. This is why they drive the scientism so hard, because it makes people miserable. People who are sold into scientism are miserable. That's why they're like trolls on the internet. They're horrible to be around. It's a nonstop barrage of just terror and profanity and all kinds of things. But as soon as you step in the magical world, you go, oh my God, we're in magic. And then you can start to work like with the teaching of people like Rudolf Steiner or Charles Fort, who elucidated the magical quality of our reality. And then you could start to go, oh, we can construct things that are of magical import, like this thing right over here. We're like this right here. See this thing?
Yeah.
This is a magical item right here. What is this? This is organite, right? This was originally developed by Wilhelm Reich. This is created by, I'm at my friend's house right now, and he makes these really well. And what you have here is layered of crystals and gems and jewels and metals, all in resins in sacred geometry. And this has an effect. It has an effect on you. And it's a natural magic. Yep. Right? What are the pyramids really? They're a natural magic. Everybody knows the pyramids of Egypt. Everybody knows the pyramids of Mexico. They're natural attractors of magical forces. And these forces can be used for good. And that's what we're doing. That's what Rudolf Steiner taught us. That's what Charles Fort taught us. The great teachers really taught us that we're not in a scientific reality. We're in a magical reality. And as soon as I say that, you go, oh, that feels good. Yeah, look at the power of Harry Potter. Why is it so powerful? It teaches children to read and activates their understanding of the magical reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Promotes creativity within them.
Promotes creativity, which, by the way, is the ultimate thing that keeps you in the center. It keeps you away from demonic forces that it beset us on both sides. Is when you're in a creative center, you're in the Christ consciousness, your core, your connected to source energy, whatever your interpretation of that is, then all those things just fall away immediately. So what is our imperative right now? The imperative is to be in creativity as much as possible all day long. Now, it just so happens that in my life, my creativity, what I love is social media. I love that. I love that battlefield. And so I get to be creative there. It's an art piece every day. Every day, like my Telegram feed, to me, it's an art piece. Every day I'm trying to create, I don't like that one. Pull it out. Okay, then that looks better now. It's an art piece every day. When you're in that state, you're fighting the good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wow. Yeah, there's so much information. Just I want people to leave here today feeling higher than they came in, and given new tools to work with to stay positive and on a higher vibration, that kind of stuff. So I love that you spoke about organite, because I love organite. Mine's sitting right back here. I've got my little one.
Oh, look at that. That's epic. That's a good one. Well done. Did you make that one?
No, I didn't, but I love the chakra colors in it and the whole 9 yards. So, and I mean, the bracelets and the shungite and I think once you turn off all the distractions and you start looking more within, you feel that magical energy that you're talking about. You can start to feel it again. It's the same way with trusting your gut. You know what I mean? And in my case, a vaccine injury with one of my kids, that shut off the medical science blabber immediately. And you just go back in and you start to relearn what you need to relearn. And then everything opens up all at once for you. And then it's one rabbit hole after another rabbit hole after another rabbit hole. But you've shut off the distractions and you've focused in on what you need to start learning. And you're not listening to the jibber jabber in your ears telling you what it is that you should be educating yourself on, or in what direction, if that makes sense.
For sure. And what you're describing is Goebbels style propaganda.
Right.
We've all been inundated with Goebbels style propaganda. Pretty much at this point, I would say pretty much anything coming out of television or any kind of mainstream or corporate messaging coming from socialist media at this point is 100% fake. It's actually you got to do what Nietzsche said. I love the way Nietzsche said this. He said, whatever's being sold to you by newspapers and magazines, do exactly the opposite, and there you will find the truth.
Yep.
And that appears to be the truth. And we see it too. It's so incredible how it is 180 degrees right now. Every single thing, the corporate media narrative, you just 100% reverse it and you'll have the truth.
Yes, 100%. And I don't understand why people are so afraid to do that. They're dependent on that directive.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit, because I want to get into that. This is a really good point. And this is going to be a shocker, I think, for a lot of us. And that is, I spent a lot of time researching the US election. I followed Richard Barris, who I think is the best pollster in America. And I was really excited to be with him that night of the election and really following his every move. He knows every county in America. And I've traveled, as being a world traveler and I've traveled all across America, back and forth many, many times, by plane, by train, and by bus and automobile, every way possible. So I'm really a people person. I love people, and I love being in there with all kinds of people. I love being in all Black audiences in Washington, D.C. I love being in Baptist churches in Texas. I love being in Colorado on, high mountain ridges. I love being in with the wackos of Venice Beach, California. I mean, I love all of that. And so I was really closely watching, like, what is the real demographic here? Is anybody actually voting for Joe Biden? And the answer is no, they didn't. No, he lost by tens of millions of votes, maybe, I think, at least 30 million votes, and it could have been even 50 million votes. That's my distinct impression from the research that I've done. The cheating was the craziest ever in any election ever, even crazier than North Korea, anything that ever happened in communist Russia, anything that ever happened in Chavez's Venezuela or anywhere in the world. That's how crazy it is. Every type of cheating in every type of county, especially in the cities. An unbelievable level of cheating. But anyway, what that taught me is that people they don't believe the media anymore. What the media narrative is actually a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax, right? It's like the Biden campaign. The whole thing's a hoax. There wasn't any campaign. He didn't go anywhere. Those pictures of him in those showrooms at the Jeep dealership, that's a complete media created hoax. It's like the Clinton campaign of 2016 is a media created hoax. And by the way, for those of you who are really clever and really want to investigate this and really are activated in finding out the truth, I will put this out there. It's the same people doing that hoax that are doing the space hoax. If you know what I mean. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the manned space program's a hoax. It's been a hoax all our lives. But that's a whole nother story, and that's to your own investigation. But you'll eventually find out if you look closely enough. It's the same people that are doing that. So it's a hoax. People don't believe it. So what they're doing is they're taking let me just phrase it out this way, because it will change you. Let me do it this way. The person who got elected lost. That person wasn't elected. They lost. It's the voter fraud that put them in, right? And now you amplify that 1,000 times across counties, across districts, across provinces, across Canada, the United States, Europe. You'll find out what the real issue is. The real issue is voter fraud. Voter fraud installs the wrong candidate, the one who was not voted for. The media then backs that candidate, says, hey, this is what you voted for. Next thing you know, you have the licensing bureaus and the bureaucracy and the red tape, and you can't go here, or you have to fill this out. We need your signature here. Oh, you owe us this much money. And it goes on and on and on. All of it is a slow encroachment of communism that was never voted for. The winner lost, and the person who lost was installed by voter fraud. That's what's been going on in the Western world all our lives.
Yep. And like they say, it's the last U.S. election, the way anybody's ever.
Unless we have blockchain distributed ledger voting, now I'll never, or just we do it by hand. Yep. Now I will never vote again. No way. Now we know. But that's what I looked for. I really wanted to know. Like that, I went through it into the detail. Yeah. What an amazing thing. What an amazing discovery.
Yeah. And now that we know what's happened there, what are we thinking about the Canadian leadership? Do we think that they've taken
it's installed. The people who won lost. And the people who lost were installed and put in as a puppet. And that's what we're finding out. The Canadian people are not communist people. The Canadian people don't want socialism. It's a media-created hoax that backs the voter fraud. Right. Yep. So you got the media backing the voter fraud. Essentially what you have is you have a communism being installed, and then they're telling you voted for it. It all comes down. The entire thing comes down to the voter fraud.
Yeah.
Once you watch as the battle begins to try to get rid of voter fraud, because everybody who was installed by voter fraud is going to be against any kind of change in any of the voting system. And that's going to tell you who the real criminals are. And that's an exciting moment, because what will happen is then we'll start going, oh, we can actually get our people in there. And if they don't change the voting system and we keep with the Dominion, Smartmatic, Hammer scorecard nonsense that's shipping your votes over to Germany to be reshuffled and sent back and be like, actually, this guy won, or this guy's vote counts for 1 1/4, but that guy's vote's only 3/4, or whatever the weighting algorithm is.
Right.
Right. This is so good. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. It's coming to light. Thank you.
Oh, I know. And it's, which brings me back around, because when this first started back in March, we all saw, Doug Ford taking a decent responsibility for what was going on, and then all of a sudden this mayor's meeting with Bill Gates went down. And the next day he came out and he was a zombie, complete, utter, people hating, citizen stomping zombie. And the lies built upon, they just keep going. Like, there's no proof to back up anything he says. There's no anything. And the freedom rallies get more and more intense, and he just keeps coming out, yahoos, buffoons, the whole 9 yards. Even his daughters are going against his narrative. That's how
he's a Freemason. You can see he throws the Freemasonic gang signs and the stuff that he does in the background. You can see him throwing his little gang signs, the little Freemason gang signs, the little secret society. So his little secret society brothers are like, dude, you're going to do what we say. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, I'll do what you say. And it's clear that that's what happened with him. So when he's throwing the Freemasonic gang signs up, it's like, oh yeah, he's a Freemason. So our orders from up high are saying, dude, you're going to do what we say. And he's like, oh yeah, I better do what they say, or else they're going to expose me for whatever they have him on blackmail. The entire system, by the way, is run on blackmail, right? So that's what they do. They get blackmail on you, and then they control you. And that's why we see, this whole thing of like pedophiles in government. What are they doing in government?
Yeah.
Well, they got blackmail on them, so they force them in. You're going to do what we say, right? We've had pedophiles in government at the head of corporations. We have pedophiles deep into all kinds of coaching systems, all kinds of university systems.
Yep.
What are they doing there? What they're doing, they're installed there, right? You're going to do what we say, and then we'll provide you with the kids. And that's what's been going on. And this system must stop, as we know. It is going to stop. And all you have to do, people are like, that's a conspiracy theory. Okay, then I need you to tell me how Dennis Hastert, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the United States, is a convicted pedophile. Guilty. What's he doing being the Speaker of the House? And we could go on and on and on like that with politicians in Canada, the US, the United Kingdom, Australia, and all across the world.
100%.
What are they doing there?
Exactly. And they're all tied to each other. That's the best part. They're like, what is it, 6 degrees of separation or whatever it's called? It's absolutely crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It shows us that what is really running that faction of the control grid is maniacs, right? Yeah. That's what it's teaching us. And it eventually it's a wake-up call, right? Because eventually you can't say it's a conspiracy theory because those people are convicted. They're in prison right now. It happened. And of course, not everybody's a detective. Not everybody's a detective. So people just go, oh, like it's like not everybody's designed to find out who the serial killer is.
Yeah.
So they can't believe it's happening.
Yeah.
But the detective, yeah. So they gaslight themselves out of it, or they believe the gaslighting or whatever. But a detective goes deeper and looks deeper. Otherwise, well, the killer or murderer will say, it wasn't me. It was, I was over there. Here's my alibi.
Yep. And
the surface researcher will go, oh, he was over there. That was his alibi. But the detective looks deeper. And this is why there's certain types of people on Earth who are detectives, right? And there's certain type of people who are not. They're into other things. And these, by the way, this is another TV show, isn't it? Detective TV shows. Mystery solvers. Yeah. So that's kind of the next piece of this, because as we start to uncode who these people are, it's a detective show. It's a mystery solving show. It's Nancy Drew. It's the Hardy Boys. It's epic.
Oh, I can't wait to get to the end. I need to learn to have more patience, but it's kind of taken a toll on a lot of people. But no, I 100% agree, and I'm so tired of giving the fear-based narrative a platform, like the lockdowns, the corruption, the cognitive dissonance, the vaccines, public health. But I always love your take on things. So let me ask you this: where do you see things going in the next 3, 6, 9, however many months? Where do you see things going?
Okay, so right now we're in a big energy flip because of the eclipses and the grand conjunction that's coming, which is once every 400 years, this intense of a conjunction. But having this intense of a conjunction with Jupiter and Saturn right on top of each other in Aquarius with the solstice is like a once maybe 800 or every 1600 year type of an event. So now that's Jupiter and Saturn. Now Jupiter is that's kind of like the enlightened king of the world, and Saturn is the old establishment king. Now you could probably put in world politics, who are those two people? But it's happening on the solstice, which is the lowest point of the sun, right? It's when the sun is furthest south. We have less daylight out. And, I'm a Rudolf Steiner fan, and I don't believe the sun is a big ball of fire out there at 93 million miles away or any of the other nonsense they taught us. The sun is the abode of Jesus and Buddha. The sun is God, right? It's the abode of God. So that's another way of looking at it. And so when the sun's dimmed, that means it's going to look bad. It's going to look like Saturn's going to beat Jupiter. But the energy flip is going to flip right around, because as Jupiter moves away and as the sun rises again, which happens right around Christmas, interestingly, and they're trying to get rid of Christmas, I find that to be very, very obvious that this is Luciferian. I mean, how much more obvious does it have to be?
Yep.
Like, come on, wake up, people. But anyway, then we're going to see an energy flip. Now, because the parasites are being exposed, they're going to grip harder and harder and harder. And when I mean grip, meaning grip into your tissue harder and harder and harder and harder, or inject into you harder and harder and harder, if you know what I mean. So we basically have got to defend ourselves using the civil rights that were gifted to us, which is my body, my choice. Nuremberg Code 6.3. You cannot have any medical treatment pushed onto you without your consent. Especially for something that has a 99.99% survival rate. At any rate, so what we'll see is we'll see them clutch and grip harder, and they're going to go all out with their matrix system, which then everybody will try to flee the system. That's already happening. That's been happening for years. Everybody, but it will come to a point where people will go, I'd rather die. I'm not paying taxes. I don't want nothing to do with that system. Now, this will eventually get to a point in the Western countries where other countries like China will look over and go, now's our opportunity. And suddenly they'll go for Taiwan. They'll try to invade Taiwan, and it will eventually precipitate a fight. I'll just leave it at that. And then what that will do, by the way, is it will cause a major course correction for all freedom-loving peoples, because they'll realize if I don't get my act together right now, we are done for. Now, in the U.S., this will happen quicker than in Canada. In Canada, people are they're more TV watchers, they're more sold into the socialism, they more believe in the voter fraud, all that, or they believe their vote was real when it was really fraudulent, whatever. But in the U.S., the U.S. will never be a communist country, ever. I can tell you that 100%. And so eventually people will hit the streets. Eventually the leadership will turn on to all the sold out politicians, both Democrat and Republican. I call them the demon craps and reptilians. And the whole thing will flip around, and then we will defeat China 100%. We'll defeat the Chinese Communist Party. It's not really China, it's the Chinese Communist Party. We will defeat the Chinese Communist Party. Now, I'm calling that about 2027. This is where we're going to be in about 2027. That conflict could go on for years, actually. I think we're in a 10 to 12-year cycle here. So as much as that, people are like, oh, no, it's going to get better next year. It's like, in some ways, it will get better next year because the astrology will not be as intense. And the next really intense astrology year will be 2024. So in some ways, it will ease up. But what's been set in motion is not going to calm down until we get past these really intense points. I don't want to say what it's a word that social media really, because this is open social media and they really are scared of that word, so I'm not going to even say it, but you know what I'm talking about. It will get to a loggerhead.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody needs to just find a way to keep their spiritual energy high. And you know what I'm curious about? I know that you've got a website and you've got a whole bunch of stuff. What is your top 3 supplements to help people get through this time? Like
Great question. Number 1 by far is charcoal. Activated charcoal is by far your best defense against all comers of troubles. Number 1 thing I've learned in Taoism, and by the way, when I think about, someone like the Biden family that sold out to China, and what they're really doing is they're selling out the American worker, they're selling out the Canadian worker, and they're selling out the Chinese worker. They're forcing them into a deeper level of slave labor. And so when I think about China and the CCP, I'm thinking we got to liberate those people because they did gift us some really great tools. And one of them is the understanding of Taoism, that the black foods and black substances improve kidney and Jing energy and thus life force, and therefore extend life. And so charcoal is the premier of all of that. Activated charcoal, 1 500 milligram capsule of that in the morning. Great way to start your day with your water. Drink your water with a little capsule of activated charcoal in the morning and then go about your day. Now, if you're taking like thyroid medication, you need to keep that separated by about 4 hours. Hospitals say 2 hours. I say 4 hours. I'm a little bit more conservative that way. And because the charcoal can interfere with any medication. And by the way, charcoal is the most antitoxic substance ever known, ever discovered of all time. That tells us something because we live in a toxic environment. So what is your best defense? So activated charcoal, just that simple discipline. Number 1 supplement. Number 2 supplement is iodine. We were offended constantly by chlorine, fluoride, and bromine in our environment. It's relentless. It's coming at us relentlessly. And you buy a new car or even an old car, it's exuding bromine inside there, bromides, fluorides in the water, chlorine, water contaminant everywhere. So what do? You got to get the iodine in there to displace out those other halogens. And iodine is the protector of your glands in the glandular system. So that would be number 3. Let's see, what would be the next one? I think the next one, if I had to pick a nutrient for a human being, because we have a big old head, we're different than any other creature on earth. What is the thing about a human being? We've got this big old brain. And so my nutrient, and I use a vegan form of this, other people will use a more primitive marine organism, and other people use fish. So the substance is an omega-3 fatty acid, which is DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. It's the most important omega-3 fatty acid. It's a marine omega-3 fatty acid. It arises in phytoplankton originally in the ecosystem of the oceans, and then the krill eat that, fish eat that, and then it works its way up the system into fish. So the fish, like a salmon or trout, doesn't create the omega-3s. It actually builds them up from the phytoplankton it's eating. It's the phytoplankton that creates the omega-3s. So DHA would be my number one pick as a nutrient for a human being in terms of an actual like compound, other than, charcoal is really a detoxifier. Iodine's really like a protector, and DHA is really a nutrient.
Awesome. Now, would that be the same for kids too?
Absolutely. In fact, this is a friend of mine had a premature baby. So he sent me the formula that they were giving to the baby. And guess what? The number one ingredient in that formula was charcoal.
Really?
Yep. Charcoal. You can feed charcoal to a preemie baby. Charcoal is the safest substance known. It's the most antitoxic substance known.
Wow.
Iodine, absolutely critical for kids. Very critical, because we don't want them ever to absorb the chlorine or fluorine or bromide. Once you're saturated in iodine, you do not absorb those things. Or radioactive iodine, we don't want them absorbing that either. So if you have the iodine in their body already, they will not absorb the radioactive iodine.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about your day. How do you get started for your day? Are you always like this high off the ground with your vibration? Or, do you fall into the fear sections as well here and there? How do you get around that?
Fear is really just, I'm just careful, right? So instead of being fearful, I'm careful. I'm converting a fear, there's nothing to be fearful about. It's just, I've got to be careful. And so that's something you want to be aware of. Instead of fearful, careful and measured, and be intelligent about what you're doing, so that you're able to maneuver in the system in a way that is alert. If you suddenly start brandishing a gun,
I'm here. Yeah.
If you suddenly start brandishing a gun, because you're fearful, that's not a good idea. That is not a good idea. This battlefield that we're on is a different type of battlefield. It's a spiritual battlefield.
I think we might.
So that's how I stay out of fearful. Now I can say that I'm. Am I here? Can you hear me?
You're here. You're
Hello?
Just a little bit choppy. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I like the term observe.
I can hear you, and you're clear to me.
Am I? Okay, good. I think you're
I like
back.
that. Yes.
Observe, don't absorb. Right?
Yes. Observe, don't absorb. I think that is a very well stated angle. And then you've also got to be like, I have high energy. So if your energy is very high, it can get flipped into anger, right? If your energy is very low, then it can get flipped into fear or concern or worry. That's very common. Well, I'm going to worry about. Worry is just a form of negative prayer. Yeah. So we don't want to be worried. But if your energy is very high, we'll say, exactly. And there are energies, of course, that are the spiritual energies. We know this. We feel it. We sense it. That feed on the fear.
Yeah.
That feed on the worry. So you don't want to feed them. You're feeding the rats. You don't want to feed rats. And that this is a way to think about it. And then, so the main thing I have to watch out for is my energy is very high. So I have to watch out that I don't flip into anger, because I can flip to that side too. Like, I'm ready to fight this out right now. Right. Which is, in reality, this is a 10 or 12 year process that we're going through, maybe 13 years, maybe even 15 years. We're in a World War II cycle all over again. So it's going to be a while. So we have to have a long-term position strategy. Like, okay, let's just hang in there for the long haul. And I've had to learn those lessons this year. They've been good lessons. But I've had to learn that, I better hunker down for the long-term battle here. And one day I will be called, to make the shot that I need to make. It's like who was it? Michael Jordan. He said, I want the ball to make the shot in the final moment to either win the game or lose it. And that's how I feel too. One day I'm going to want that shot. I want that shot to win, or we're going to lose, but I want the shot.
Yeah.
And I suspect we're going to win. We will win. We're going to win. And it's going to be, what an epic journey it's going to be. And then the world that will come after will be so much more educated about what all this is. And we are learning so many lessons. I mean, people who weren't spiritual, or people who didn't believe that these people worship Lucifer, now you're finding out. Now you're finding out that they do worship Lucifer. That's why they're gunning for Christmas. You may not believe in Jesus, but they do. And they want to stop Jesus.
Yep. The power. Right. But the light wins. Every
The light wins.
single
And
time.
yeah, and this is the, that when the parasites get hold of the organism, there comes a point where the organism becomes aware of the parasites, because the parasite's main goal is to make sure you're not aware that it's there. Its whole thing is disguise. Its entire thing is deception. But then there comes a point where there's so much reproach against the organism that the organism goes, I think I've got parasites. And then we can act. And that's where we are. That's where we are in the narrative, actually. Yeah. We're at that point where we realize this is a parasite infection. Okay, now I know what we got to do. And to unhook the parasites it's going to take some work, and it takes each one of us to be activated to remove the parasites.
Awesome. Well, wow, I love your take on things. It always makes me feel better. And I know I keep repeating this, but it's helped me this week because I've been having a hard week this week. I've told you that earlier, but so thank you very much. Do you have a parting message to the masses? One for those trying to vibrate higher, or one for those that are feeling low? What's your parting message?
Okay, so one of the great lessons I've learned, and I constantly am relearning this message, and it's constantly comes back up in my consciousness, bubbles back up. It's a tool, and it's a very important tool of staying focused on solutions, which is you are beyond an AI. You're way beyond artificial intelligence. Your consciousness will answer any question that you give it. So you've got to get into the habit of asking yourself empowering questions. For example, how do I make sure my kids are safe, healthy, having the best day ever? I'm doing everything I can to forward the light into civilization, and I'm doing it with joy in my heart. Now, when you ask yourself that question, eventually in the middle of the night, maybe it's in the shower, at some point you're all of a sudden something comes and just pops in, and you go, oh, that's the answer to that's it. That's the answer. So asking yourself empowering questions is how you direct your consciousness to answers. When we ask ourselves unempowering questions, disempowering questions, for example, I can't believe this is happening to us. This is the worst ever. Oh my God, what are we going to do? You're going to get a bad answer to that question. So it's a constant reframe of, how do I make today the best day ever? How do I actually take this moment and I turn it into total magic? And there will suddenly something will come in and you'll go, that's it. And then you just do it.
Yeah.
So that is the message that I have for you, is you got to, that self-talk comes down to questions and answers. And when you correct those questions, so you're asking better questions, you're like, how do we actually enjoy the next 13 years of our life as the whole thing comes down in the greatest story ever told? We're going to have the best day ever. The kids will be freed. This will be the moment that will be talked about for thousands of years into the future. How do I make that daily the best ever for myself? And suddenly one moment, all of a sudden your brain goes, hey, how about this? Bam. And there it is.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. Well, tell people where they can reach you, David. I want people to be able to get in touch with you or find you and hear your messages. Where would they connect with you?
The best hub probably at this point, I would say, is, what's the best hub? Probably Instagram. Instagram, David Avocado Wolfe. David Avocado Wolfe. You can also find me at just davidwolfe.com, DAVIDWOLFE.com. You can find me there. And you can also find me on Telegram Messenger, if you have that, which is in the top 10 apps in the world, at David Avocado Wolfe on Telegram Messenger. You can find me on Parler at Avocado Wolfe. You can find me there, Avocado Wolfe, AVOCADO, AVOCADO. And you can find me on MeWe at David Avocado Wolfe. You can find me on Twitter at David Wolfe. I mean, you could figure it out from here. And then I'm always on those platforms all the time, but my favorite by far is Telegram. I love Telegram, and that's where I save my best stuff. So if you want to track kind of what's happening on the day-to-day, https://t as in Tom or Telegram .me as in me/David Avocado Wolfe. You can find me there on Telegram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to chat with us today. I hope you'll come back another time and catch up with us. Please say hello to the beautiful Christina for me. I absolutely love her.
I absolutely will do that. And hopefully we'll get to see you guys out there in BC. We'll see what happens. I mean, I have to be, measured in my movements and top secret on locations.
Yeah.
But I could be there sooner than later. We'll see.
Awesome. So yeah, I believe they're having another Freedom Rally tomorrow out in BC. So get your butts out there, Vancouver.
All right.
Ontario, Yonge and Dundas Square, every Saturday, right? If
Get your motor running. Get out on the highway.
Exactly.
Looking for adventure, right? This is it. We got the adventure. You're in your own movie now. You got it. Here's the whole plot line. There's the James Bond villains. Here's your own reality TV show. It's on.
Exactly. And you guys, you can find me, Parlor and Instagram, aforbes78, Telegram, Amanda Forbes, or Woke AF. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate all of your time. And I really do hope you'll come back and chat with us again soon.
It would be lovely. Thanks, Amanda. Have the best day ever. And to everyone out there, have the best day ever.
Bye, guys.